That have happened in our life during the last 12 months of our life. We're going to share what it is that we dreamed up and what's happening in our lives now, 365 days later. What would you love to be saying about your life? In the spiral, there's an ever upward pull of becomingness. A little blade of grass feels it as it presses through cement to become more of itself today than yesterday.
New York had just locked down because of COVID, and my friend Chuck, who's a co-founder at Lucky Risograph, asked me if I wanted to make a digital fair website with him. I really didn't know what that meant, and I was like pretty overwhelmed with what was going on, and I felt like I was mourning real space so much. But you know, I had nothing better to do, so I figured we would just give it a go and see what happened. We already had this mood board going for a rebrand they want to do. And so we were really inspired by physical tickets, really ephemeral receipts from Chinatown because they're in Chinatown. And I got in touch with Laurel because I love this website that Laurel built for Publication Studio. And it is playing off the theme of a cloud, and what I loved about it was that it felt so self-contained in its own universe, and everything you did feels like an extension of that expression. And this is immediately the dream space I wanted to build because we didn't have real space anymore. I came up with 2 directions to present to the group. The first direction was a straightforward e-commerce vibe of a fair, with each artist page being like a collage of different elements that they would choose. And the second direction, which we called IRL to URL, was a literal digital translation of what a fair would be. So the gist of it was that all zines and books would be on a table, and all prints would be on a wall. And then there would be left and right navigation to get to each room. The sketches eventually matured, and this is what the room started looking like. We moved the navigation up top, we put things on separate shelves, we had plants, we talked about having a bathroom where there would literally be a toilet, or a sunroom where there would be a deck that people could be at. This is when imposter syndrome started to kick in. As a self-taught coder and self-practicing coder, I wasn't sure how I would build these rooms. I had never built a CMS or, really architected a site like this. The whole concept of a digital fair started to feel a bit depressing too. I thought, who are we to imagine what a digital fair could be right now? We're all really mourning real space. Why were we trying to replicate the weird, cool things that happen in real life? But we had already asked all these artists to be involved, and time was ticking, so we got on with it. I tried to visualize physical spaces that I had never been to, wanted to go to, that felt like, dream worlds, and how we could bring that to this fair. The CMS remained the scariest question. Because there were going to be 40 artists involved and all of their information was always changing, it wasn't feasible for me to hand code the entire site like I was used to. I had used Jekyll once before, and Jekyll is a site builder that is structured like a blog. So every post you would have on a site generated by Jekyll is essentially a blog post. So I was comfortable with building a site in a hacky, dynamic way through Jekyll. But I still wasn't sure how we would make the posts for Jekyll. in a way that wasn't hand done. We had this Google form that all the artists filled out with information about their works that was automatically being put into a Google spreadsheet. So we figured, like, if we could build a CMS around a Google Sheet, that would be the best thing. I found a Python script on GitHub that turned CSVs, so spreadsheet, into YAML, which is markup language. So this would essentially turn the spreadsheet into a series. Each row of the spreadsheet would be turned into a file that was a markup language that we could use in Jekyll. The site is on GitHub pages because we just wanted to do it for free hosting. So everything it's actually public, so you can check it out here, and I'll send you the link. So I structured it so that works were in a folder, and all of the works are these markup files that were generated from this Google spreadsheet. And then the site was coded so that, if room equaled solarium, then a work would be in the solarium. We can't get together because of COVID, so we have this massive G-chat where we're going over everything. We really wanted this to be special, so we were invested in figuring out how could we use different elements and scrappy techniques to hold this site together, and feel like a collage, asking what were the right parts of the whole. Elements that could make this site our own. First, this greeting that told people what kind of experience they were being led into, this cute little book cursor that we decided on. I made sure that every room had a distinct hover interaction. So some of them hovered down, some of them hovered up. In the rumble room, every painting, when you hovered on it, it rumbled. And Amanda from Lucky Risograph and Alex from Zine Hug, made these room names, and I don't think that people would have connected to this site without this copy. We called our event space Rizzo TV, where we had a Twitch embed and a schedule for the weekend with the chat initially. And then we had a Google Doc embed guest book where I'm still going, and 6 months later I see that 7 days ago someone wrote something new here. And this is so humbling to see how people connected with what we were doing, and it made us feel like, this was an event and this was real space, and that we were making meaningful interactions together. And it made me feel really grateful for being friends with dreamers and, being friends with people who wanted to see something happen out of this time. And I think it was an imperfect stab at an idea of how we could get close to the reality we were missing so much. I'm an organizer for next year's Printed Matter Virtual Art Book Fair, where we're asking the same question of how people can connect in the absence of real spaces. What I love about making on the web is that so much is possible, and that we don't know the extent of what is possible without trying, and how empowering it is to keep trying and keep getting closer to ideas you want to make work about. I want to leave on this quote I found on a Stack Overflow comment of two people arguing. Okay. Dalgard, in defending their their answer to this Flexbox question. They say, front-end development is the art of the possible. Pragmatism is the basic premise. I love that, and I think it's true. Keep dreaming.